Now, what is going on, everyone? Today we are going to finish off this series, and I already said in the last video that now it's super easy to actually test our server, because we can test the little components individually. And this is exactly what we are going to do. So let's just go to our code editor, and I just want to show you what I would like to test right now. So there is this method here called sanitize names, and this method is responsible for splitting like the first name into multiple parts if you have a space inside of it. And I would like to test this. And the cool thing is, now that we have dependency injection, it's actually very easy to do so, because we can just create an instance of this service, and we can just mock or stub this data access object out, and we can just test like this method. And later we could also test like the creation of the developer by itself, but yeah, let's just stick to this method. Yeah, and the first thing that we should do is we should install a test runner. So I'm just going to say npm install save dev mocha. And a test runner is something that goes through your files recursively if you want, and it's going to check if your file is a test, and if it is a test, then it's just going to run it. And we also need to add this test script here in our package.json file, because otherwise we don't know what to do when we run npm test. Cool. And so I'm just going to make a new directory called test, and maybe let's also make a new directory called service, and then I'm going to change to the service, and inside of here, where is it? Here. Okay, I am just going to create like one additional file, which is going to be, I have to click here, dev.spec.js. So let's just put a little bit of logic inside of here. So one thing that we need for sure is we need a describe. And this describe, I'm not really sure like how to name this. Let's maybe say dev service. And this describe allows us to group tests basically. And I'll do like another describe, and I will say sanitize names. And inside of here, I'm going to put all the tests that test, the splitting of the first name, middle name, and last name. Okay, let's just add like a semicolon over here. And now we will need two things. So for one, I'm just going to import like the standard node assertion library. Now, normally you would probably go for something like chai, but I mean, we're only going to write a couple of tests, so I think it's totally fine to just go for the standard assertion library, because I don't want to just include more and more dependencies for a relatively small example. Cool, so let's import our dev service over here. Good, and now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a new instance of it. And I can do that because this service expects to receive all its dependencies via the constructor, and I'm just not going to pass it because we are just not going to use it anyway. Now, if you want to test like this create dev method, you might pass actually a stub here, for example. But since we will only use this sanitize name method like for testing for now, it's fine to just pass an empty object. Okay, then what should it do? So I'm just going to write the first test. So I would say it should leave a correct separation of names as is. Okay, so it means if someone puts in like the first name, the middle names, and the last name correctly, then I want this thing to not do anything. So I'm just going to say sanitize names. I think it was sanitize names, right? Now I'm not sure why it is not, why it starts yelling here. Okay, let's just put like a couple of values here. So let's say John, Alexander, Smith. Okay, cool. So it should now not do anything, right? So I'm just going to say assert dot strict equal, and it should be John as the first name. It should be what was it? Alexander as the middle names. Also middle names, because technically we could have more. And I'm just going to put in Smith and last name. And by the way, these things, they are, this first name, middle name, and last name with this prefix. This is like just what this method returns in general. Okay, but I think we kind of have like some issue here. Anyway, I mean, let's try to run the test and then we'll just see. I'm just going to run npm test, and it already blows up. So let's see what the problem is. Malformed error function parameter list. I forgot like a comma. I knew there was something, but I just didn't see it immediately. Okay, so here it is. And now, okay, now it's applying like pre-printing. That's fine. Sometimes it's kind of weird because it's formatting it like this, and now it's complaining that there should be a comma here, even though it's like a method, so we can't put like a comma here because it would be invalid syntax. Anyway, I mean, that would be like one test. So let's try to run this again. So I'll just run npm test. Yes, and you see it's passing. So you see it's like super easy to test like actual logic, and of course you could test like way more. So I'm just going to take this and copy this, and I'm just going to say it should trim whitespace. That's also what I expect. So if I pass something like, I don't know, Megan Maria Williams, and I'll just add a couple of spaces here, a couple of spaces here, there, maybe like quite a lot here and only one here, then it should give me like Megan Maria Williams. This is also like some current things, you know, something, you know, if they are a little bit sloppy and they just by accident put in like some space, then we should trim that. Otherwise it's kind of difficult, like if we search by last name or so in our database and all of a sudden we don't have it, that would be bad. Okay, what else could we do? We could say, oops, just had to check something. We could say, maybe we can pass like an empty string. Oh no, maybe let's pass null first. I'm just going to pass null, and I'm going to expect this to remain null as well. Okay, and maybe let's, I don't know, Tom Brown. Okay, I'm just using different names here just to not use the same thing all the time, and also because it's just easier, because in case something fails, you can just, you know, search for like the name and you don't have 5,000 test cases for it. Okay, cool. So that's like one case. What else could we do? Oh, we could put in like an empty space, right? That's also common. So what happens if you put in like an empty space? Then I would expect, yeah, Alexander Johnson, right? Or maybe let's put Josh, because this is a little bit Johnson. Cool. So that should be good. It should trim it. Oh, and we should it should ignore it should ignore it ignores middle names if not present. Okay, and here I will just say it ignores empty string as middle name. Yeah, so let's try this. Let's run npm test and let's see what happens. Cool. So now we have 4 tests. Maybe what else could we do? Oh yeah, one more test, and I think then we're like pretty good. So we could take that guy, and then we could say it eliminates duplicate spaces between middle names. So for example, I might have something like Larry, what other name? Alexander, Jonathan. And I'm just going to maybe put a few spaces here as well. And what else do we have? Smith. Then I would expect Larry, Alexander, Jonathan, and then Smith. Okay, so let's try this. Should work, I think. Yes. So yeah, I mean, this can go on and on and on, but you can see that, you know, for such a method, it really makes sense to test like a few example input values. And with this dependency injection, it's just super easy to do so. And I would really highly recommend to use this, especially in bigger projects where, you know, testing kind of becomes hard because you have so much stuff in your project. So again, thank you very much for watching, and please make sure to give the video a thumbs up. Also, please leave me a comment if you have a question. I'll put the code on GitHub so you can check it out. And also, if you have another question and you want to reach out on a different channel, you can do so by sending me a tweet. My Twitter handle is @productioncoder, and I've also put in a link in the video description down below. So if you guys want to have a say in what we should cover next on this channel, then you can sign up there and I will just send an email around from time to time. Nice. So thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel and I'll see you in the next video.